Major Angela Clark had been retired from the Army Nurse Corps for 8 years. She was 58 years old. Joined the Army at 23 right out of nursing school. Served for 27 years. Iraq, Afghanistan, Germany, Korea, Fort Sam Houston, Walter Reed. Every place the Army needed experienced nurses who could handle the worst casualties and keep soldiers alive when everything was falling apart. She'd retired at 50 as a major, could have stayed longer, could have pushed for lieutenant colonel, but she was tired. Tired of war. Tired of death. Tired of carrying ghosts that never left no matter how many years passed. So she'd taken her retirement, taken her pension, and moved to the place she'd dreamed about during all those deployments. Greenfield, Kansas. Population 2,847. A tiny farming town in the middle of nowhere, where the biggest excitement was the Friday night high school football games, where everyone knew everyone, where life moved slow and peaceful. Angela bought a small house on the edge of town, worked part-time at the Greenfield Community Clinic. Basic primary care, diabetes management, blood pressure checks, vaccinations. Nothing dramatic, nothing traumatic, nothing that reminded her of field hospitals and mass casualties and soldiers bleeding out on tables. It was exactly what she needed. A quiet life, a peaceful life. A life where the worst thing that happened was Mrs. Henderson's chronic knee pain or Tommy Rodriguez's strep throat. For 8 years, Angela lived this quiet life, went to church on Sundays, had coffee at Mary's Diner every morning, knew all the kids in town by name, became part of the community, the retired Army nurse who'd come home to Kansas to find peace. But peace doesn't last forever. And sometimes the skills you thought you'd never need again become the only thing standing between life and death. May 18th, 2024, 3:47 p.m. Angela was at the clinic finishing her shift. Dr. Peterson, the only doctor in town, had left early for his grandson's birthday party in Wichita. The clinic was supposed to close at 4:00 p.m. Just 13 more minutes. Then Angela could go home, make dinner, watch the news. Another quiet evening in her quiet life. The emergency alert on her phone went off. Tornado warning. Greenfield County. Take shelter immediately. Large and extremely dangerous tornado on the ground. Angela looked out the clinic window. The sky had turned an impossible shade of green. The air felt heavy. Wrong. Dangerous. She'd grown up in Kansas, knew what tornado weather felt like. But this was different. This felt worse. She moved to turn on the TV in the waiting room. The local news was showing radar. A massive tornado, EF4 or EF5, bearing down directly on Greenfield. ETA, 8 minutes. Angela's military training kicked in immediately. She ran to the clinic's basement, a small storage area that would have to serve as a shelter. Started moving supplies down. Medical equipment, medications, anything she might need. Because Angela knew something the rest of the town didn't know yet. When a tornado this size hit a town this small, there would be casualties. Lots of them. And the nearest hospital was in Liberal, 80 miles away. For the next few minutes, maybe the next few hours, this clinic would be the only medical facility available. And Angela would be the only medical professional. Just like Iraq. Just like Afghanistan. Just like all those deployments she thought she'd left behind. The tornado hit Greenfield at 3:55 p.m. The sound was like a freight train mixed with a jet engine mixed with the end of the world. The clinic shook. Windows exploded. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked on, then died. Angela huddled in the basement, listening to her town being destroyed, listening to the screaming wind and the crashing buildings, and knowing that when the storm passed, everything would be different. The tornado moved through Greenfield in 4 minutes. 4 minutes to destroy a town that had stood for 120 years. When the wind stopped and the terrible silence fell, Angela climbed out of the basement. The clinic was damaged but standing. The roof was partially gone, windows shattered, but the structure was intact. Outside, Greenfield was unrecognizable. Buildings flattened, cars overturned, trees stripped bare, debris everywhere, and in the distance, Angela could hear screaming. She ran outside and saw them coming. People, dozens of people, covered in blood and dirt and injuries, all moving toward the clinic, the only building still standing that might have help. The only place with a nurse. Angela stood in the destroyed parking lot, watching them come, and in that moment, she wasn't a retired nurse in a quiet Kansas town anymore. She was Major Angela Clark, Army Nurse Corps, 27 years of combat medicine, and she had work to do. If this story of a retired Army nurse who spent 8 years escaping war only to have a tornado turn her small-town clinic into a field hospital already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe. What happens when Major Clark realizes she can't escape who she is? And that sometimes the most important battle happens in your hometown will prove that some skills never leave you. Some missions find you when you least expect them. And some nurses can turn a destroyed clinic into a life-saving hospital with nothing but training, determination, and 18 hours that will save an entire town. Now let's go back to understand why Angela Clark chose Greenfield, Kansas, and why this tornado would test everything she learned in 27 years of military service. Major Angela Clark's military career had been exemplary. Decorated, respected, successful. By every metric the Army measured, she deployed 6 times, Iraq 3 times, Afghanistan 3 times, treated thousands of combat casualties, worked in field hospitals, combat support hospitals, forward operating bases. She'd saved hundreds of lives, maybe thousands. Hard to count after 27 years, but she also carried the ones she couldn't save. The faces, the names, the moments when despite everything she did, death won anyway. Private Rodriguez, 19 years old, bled out from an IED blast before they could get enough blood into him. Sergeant Williams, 34 years old, 3 kids, massive head trauma, dead before he hit the ground. Captain Morrison, 28 years old, engaged to be married, gunshot wound to the chest, died on her table while she performed CPR. The list went on, and on, and on. By year 25, Angela was drinking too much, sleeping too little, having nightmares that wouldn't stop, PTSD that she refused to admit to because admitting it meant weakness and nurses didn't get to be weak. At year 26, she nearly had a breakdown. Broke down crying in the middle of a shift at Walter Reed. Had to be escorted out. Spent 3 weeks on medical leave. At year 27, she made the decision. She was done. Retiring. Leaving the Army before the Army broke her completely. She'd grown up in Kansas. Small town. Farm country. Had always dreamed of going back someday. Living a quiet life, away from war, away from death, away from everything that had defined her adult life. So she found Greenfield. Population 2,847. The kind of place where nothing ever happened, where life was predictable, safe, peaceful. She bought a house, got a job at the clinic, started over. For 8 years, it worked. She healed, slowly. The nightmares came less often. The drinking stopped. The weight lifted. Not completely, but enough. She thought she'd left Major Angela Clark behind. Thought she was just Angela now. Small-town clinic nurse. Quiet, peaceful, safe, but you can't ever really leave who you are. And sometimes, life reminds you of that in the worst possible way. Angela stood in the clinic parking lot, watching 47 injured people moving toward her, some walking, some being carried, some crawling. 47 casualties. The number hit her like a physical blow, because she'd dealt with mass casualties before, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, but that was with full medical teams, surgeons, anesthesiologists, other nurses, equipment, supplies, infrastructure. Here she had herself, a partially destroyed clinic, limited supplies, no electricity, no running water, no backup, just her and 47 people who would die if she couldn't figure out how to save them. Angela's military training took over, completely, automatically, like she'd never retired, like the last 8 years had been a dream and she'd just woken up back in a combat zone. "Listen up!" Her voice carried across the destroyed parking lot. Command voice, the voice that made soldiers stop and listen even in the middle of chaos. The crowd of injured people stopped, looked at her. "I'm Major Angela Clark, Army Nurse Corps. This clinic is now a field hospital. If you can walk and you're not seriously injured, I need you to help. If you're critically injured, sit down right there in the parking lot. If you're somewhere in between, form a line. We're going to triage. We're going to treat. And we're all going to get through this. Understood?" A few people nodded. Most were too shocked to respond. But they did what she said. Because in a crisis, people need someone to take charge. Someone to tell them what to do. Someone who sounds like they know what they're doing. Angela started triaging, moving person to person, assessing injuries, making split-second decisions, critical, serious, minor, walking wounded. Red tags, yellow tags, green tags. She didn't have actual triage tags, so she used markers, drew directly on people's foreheads, red, yellow, green. 15 critical, 20 serious, 12 minor. The critical cases were bad. Crushed limbs, head injuries, internal bleeding, massive lacerations, the kind of injuries that needed surgery, needed a hospital, needed resources she didn't have. But she'd worked with less in Iraq, in Afghanistan, when supplies ran out and equipment failed and all you had was skill and determination and the refusal to let people die. You, and you. Angela pointed at 3 men who looked relatively uninjured. "I need you to clear the clinic waiting room. Move all the furniture out. We need space for patients." "Ma'am, the roof is partially gone. I don't care if the roof is completely gone. Clear the space. Now." They moved. "You," Angela pointed at a woman with a minor cut on her arm. "What's your name?" "Sarah. Sarah Henderson." "Sarah, I need you to go through the town. Find anyone with medical training, EMTs, paramedics, veterinarians, anyone. Bring them here. The town is destroyed. Then search the destroyed town. Go." Sarah went. Angela turned to the critical patients. 15 people who might die in the next hour if she didn't do something. No electricity. No running water. Limited supplies. No backup, just her. And 27 years of experience. And the absolute certainty that she wasn't going to let these people die in her parking lot. Within 20 minutes, Angela had transformed the destroyed clinic into a functioning field hospital. The waiting room was cleared. Patients laid out on the floor in rows. Critical cases closest to her. Serious cases in the middle. Minor cases near the door. She'd found a generator in the clinic basement. Got it running. Had limited power now. Enough for lights. Enough for some equipment. Water was a problem. The town's water system was destroyed. But someone brought bottles. Cases of water from the destroyed grocery store. Not sterile. But it would have to do. Medical supplies were limited. The clinic had basics. Bandages, sutures, antibiotics, pain medication, but nothing for major surgery. Nothing for critical trauma. Angela worked with what she had and improvised the rest. A woman with a crushed leg, bleeding heavily, needed a tourniquet. Angela used a belt, tightened it, stopped the bleeding. The woman would probably lose the leg, but she'd live. A man with a sucking chest wound, pneumothorax, lung collapsing, needed a chest tube. Angela didn't have a chest tube, used an IV catheter instead, improvised a one-way valve with a glove. It worked. The man started breathing better. A child, 8 years old, head injury, unconscious, bleeding from the ears, potential skull fracture, needed a CT scan, needed a neurosurgeon, needed a level 1 trauma center. Angela had none of those things, so she stabilized him, monitored his vital signs, kept his airway open, and hoped the medevac helicopters would arrive before he deteriorated, person after person, injury after injury, decision after decision. Some decisions were easy: bandage, suture, splint. Some decisions were impossible. Who gets treated first? Who has to wait? Who might not make it? Angela made them all, without hesitation, without second-guessing, because that's what she'd been trained to do, what she'd done for 27 years. 2.5 hours after the tornado hit, help started arriving. First responders from neighboring towns, ambulances, fire trucks, a few paramedics, and 3 people Angela hadn't expected. Dr. Peterson, the town's only doctor, came back from Wichita the moment he heard about the tornado, driving through blocked roads and debris fields to reach his town. Jennifer Martinez, a retired combat medic, Army, served in Iraq, moved to Greenfield 5 years ago. Angela didn't know she was there. Tom Bradley, a veterinarian, not a human doctor, but he knew anatomy, knew medicine, knew how to handle trauma. They walked into the makeshift field hospital, saw the organized chaos, saw Angela in the center, covered in blood, exhausted, but still moving, still treating, still saving. Major Clark? Dr. Peterson stared at her. What is all this? Triage and treatment, doctor. I have 15 critical, 20 serious, 12 minor. We've stabilized most of them, but we need medevac for the critical cases, and we need more supplies. You did all this? In 2 hours? By yourself? I had help. Angela gestured at the volunteers, the townspeople who'd stepped up, held IVs, applied pressure to wounds, comforted the injured. This is incredible. This is a field hospital. Yes, sir. That's exactly what it is. Dr. Peterson looked around, at the organized rows of patients, at the triage markings, at the improvised equipment, at the functioning medical facility that had been created from a destroyed clinic and sheer determination. Major Clark, I served in Vietnam. I know what a combat hospital looks like, and this, he gestured at the room, this is better than some combat hospitals I saw. How did you do this? 27 years of practice, sir. Now, if you're ready to work, I have patients who need a doctor. The medevac helicopters arrived at sunset, took the most critical cases, the 8-year-old with the head injury, the crushed leg woman, the chest wound man, 3 others who needed surgery Angela couldn't provide. That left 39 patients, all stable enough to wait for ambulance transport to hospitals in liberal Dodge City and Garden City. But the ambulances couldn't come until roads were cleared, until debris was moved, until paths were established. So Angela, Dr. Peterson, Jennifer, and Tom worked through the night, monitoring patients, changing bandages, administering medications, keeping everyone alive until transport arrived. Angela worked 18 hours straight. No breaks, no rest. Just patient after patient. Crisis after crisis. Emergency after emergency. At 2:00 a.m., Jennifer approached her. "Major, you need to rest. You've been going for 10 hours straight." "I'm fine." "Ma'am, with respect, you're not fine. You're exhausted. Let me take over for an hour. Get some water." "Sit down," Angela wanted to argue. Wanted to say she could keep going. But her hands were shaking. Her vision was blurring. Her body was shutting down. 30 minutes, Angela said. "Then I'm back." She walked outside, sat on the curb of the destroyed parking lot, looked at what remained of Greenfield. The town was gone, just gone, flattened, like a bomb had hit it, like a war zone, like Iraq, like Afghanistan, like all the places she'd tried to leave behind. And Angela realized something. She hadn't left those places behind. She'd carried them with her, carried the skills, the training, the experience, the ability to function in chaos, to save lives when everything was falling apart. She'd spent 8 years thinking she was escaping war, thinking she was becoming someone different. But she wasn't escaping. She was preparing for this moment, for this crisis, for the day when her small, quiet town would need someone who knew how to turn a destroyed building into a hospital, who knew how to save lives with limited resources and endless determination. Dr. Peterson sat down beside her. "Angela, what you did today, I've been a doctor for 35 years, and I've never seen anything like it. You saved this town." "I just did my job." "No. You did more than your job. 47 people came to that clinic. You triaged them, treated them, kept them alive, by yourself, for hours, until help arrived. Do you understand what that means? It means I'm tired. It means you're a hero, and this town owes you everything." The last ambulance left Greenfield at 9:47 a.m. All 47 tornado victims had been transported to hospitals, all alive, all stable, 0 deaths, despite the catastrophic damage, despite the limited resources, despite the impossible circumstances. 47 injured, 47 treated, 47 saved. Angela stood in the destroyed clinic, looking at the blood-stained floor, the improvised equipment, the evidence of 18 hours of non-stop medical care. Jennifer approached. "Major, they're saying this is the worst tornado to hit Kansas in 20 years. Entire town destroyed. And yet, not a single fatality. Because of you. Because of all of us. You, Dr. Peterson, Tom, the volunteers, everyone who helped. Ma'am, with respect, we helped. But you ran it. You organized it. You made it work. Without you, a lot of those people would have died. You know it. I know it. The whole town knows it. Greenfield was being rebuilt, slowly, house by house, building by building. And in the center of town, where the old community clinic had stood, a new building was rising, bigger, better, state-of-the-art medical facility, fully equipped, ready for any emergency. The sign went up in early November. Clark Memorial Medical Center, in honor of Major Angela Clark, USA, here ready. Who saved our town. Angela stood in front of the sign, staring at her name, feeling emotions she couldn't identify. The mayor, Tom Henderson, stood beside her. The town voted unanimously. "We're naming this hospital after you, so that every person who comes here will remember what you did. How you saved 47 people with nothing but a destroyed clinic and your training. I don't need a hospital named after me. Maybe not, but we need to honor you. You came to Greenfield to escape war, to find peace. And when war came to us, when that tornado hit, you didn't run. You stood. You fought. You saved us. That deserves recognition." At the dedication ceremony, all 47 tornado survivors attended. Some in wheelchairs, some with casts, some with scars, all alive. One by one, they approached Angela, thanked her, shared their stories. The woman with the crushed leg. She'd lost the leg, but she was alive, learning to walk with a prosthetic. "You saved my life, Major. I get to watch my grandkids grow up because of you." The man with the chest wound. "Doctors said your improvised chest tube saved me. Said I'd have died without it." "Thank you." The 8-year-old boy with the head injury. Fully recovered. No brain damage. Running around the ceremony like nothing had happened. His mother hugged Angela, crying. "You kept him alive. You saved my baby," Dr. Peterson spoke. On May 18th, Major Clark transformed a destroyed clinic into a field hospital. Treated 47 critical patients. Worked 18 hours straight. Saved every single life. This is the definition of heroism. This is why we honor her today. They unveiled a plaque inside the new hospital, in the main entrance where everyone would see it. Major Angela Clark, USA, Ret. Army Nurse Corps, 27 years of service, May 18, 2024. 47 casualties, 47 saved, 18 hours. Some skills never leave you. Angela became the director of the Clark Memorial Medical Center, trained new nurses, established emergency protocols, made sure Greenfield would never be unprepared again. She also started a program, training civilians in basic trauma care, teaching them what to do in disasters, passing on the skills she'd learned in 27 years of military service. 5 years later, another tornado hit a nearby town, and 3 people Angela had trained were there. They established a triage center, stabilized casualties, saved lives using the skills Angela had taught them. Using the lessons from May 18th, 2024, the ripple effect of one retired nurse, one destroyed clinic, one impossible day. Angela never regretted moving to Greenfield, never regretted retiring, never regretted seeking peace. But she understood now that peace wasn't about escaping who you are. It was about accepting who you are and using your skills when they're needed. She'd spent 8 years thinking she'd left Major Angela Clark behind, thinking she was done with trauma and crisis and life-or-death decisions. But that day in May proved otherwise. Proved that some skills never leave you. Proved that sometimes the most important mission happens in your hometown. Proved that 27 years of military service wasn't something to escape from. It was something to honor by using it when it mattered most. 47 casualties. 47 treated. 47 saved. 18 hours that defined a career. A day that saved a town and a hospital named Clark. Forever.